Finding the right treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder is one thing, but what about supporting someone through the treatment process and beyond? Here to share supporter strategies for your loved one with PTSD is Dr. Judith Joseph. We were talking off camera. Obviously, PTSD is not a light topic, but it is nice to have some levity in these conversations. And you've just been such a dream to work with today. So thank you for giving us a little peaks and valleys here, so it's not just
thank you.
PTSD. So once a loved one is diagnosed and receiving treatment, what are the triggers that a supporter should look out for or avoid?
So I always warn people that things may get worse before they're getting better. And it makes sense. If you have been through something terrible and this is your first time in treatment or second or third time in treatment and you're talking about it, you're rehashing this, sometimes you will shut down. Sometimes these old behaviors will return, not opening the door, not eating, sleeping differently, or just being on edge or irritable. And so yes, things may get worse before they get better. However, things will get better with time if you've had success in the past.
Why is that? Why do they get worse?
Because when you're exposed to something that is so terrifying, your body reacts. And we talked about the part of the brain, the amygdala, and its hyperactivity in people with PTSD and how it's screaming and shouting like, run for the hills. And your body listens to that amygdala, and you can have the physiological sweating, the heart racing, the breathing fast. And so the person logically knows that, okay, they're not in a dangerous situation, but their body is telling them another thing. And it's very uncomfortable for that person and exhausting. So they will shut down. And so the supporters, the loved ones, should look for signs of exhaustion, someone shutting down, someone not being a part of family life, of home life, as they used to, and also reassuring them that, it's gonna be okay. This is expected, things will get better.
How do the triggers change over time while the PTSD patient is in treatment?
So, we all have a fluid lifestyle. So, for example, I gave you the story about the child who, her trauma happened at school. And when we removed her from the school setting, things got better. And then, down the road, we thought that she had successfully completed the cognitive behavioral therapy and was on the right regimen. And we thought, let's see if she can handle school again. And I warned everyone, she will most likely start shutting down. And we expect this because she's going back to school, not the same school, a different one, but just the thought of returning to an environment where something potentially could happen, or something that reminds you of something bad that did happen, can set her off. So let's all go in eyes wide open with realistic expectations and know that we'll get through it together because the treatment worked before. So there's no reason to believe that it won't work again.
So then what happened with her? She went to the new school?
She was re-triggered. So she shut down initially, grades decline, and we used some of those coping skills. We ramped up therapy. So rather than once a week, we did several times weekly. We incorporated the teachers, the counselor in school, so that if she needed a break, she had someone to turn to. And things worked out in that case.
So she was able to...
She was able to successfully reintegrate into the school system, a different school, but she was able to overcome those initial triggers and stay in school.
Do you have to face your triggers?
So a part of cognitive behavioral therapy is called exposure therapy. So the more that you hide from the thing that terrifies you, the stronger that fear becomes in the brain. It becomes more prominent in the brain. And so the more that you're able to challenge this notion that this scary thing will lead to this, and to face the fear and to overcome that hump of, okay, this area was scary for me. I was able to face it and I survived. Nothing bad happened. I didn't die. That tells your brain that actually this thing isn't going to kill you. And that fear center shrinks. Does that make sense?
It does. Okay. We talk about exposure therapy a lot in our series with Dr. Jenny Yip on OCD and how that is a common treatment method. So it would make sense that this also would address fear in that way and be successful. What are the key strategies for supporters to help the ones that they love who are in treatment for PTSD?
So someone who is experiencing these very uncomfortable feelings of hypervigilance, arousal, flashbacks, they're not necessarily capable in that moment of utilizing skills that they once mastered. And so that's why having kind of like a therapy partner is helpful, because that person knows that, okay, these are some of the tools that you used in the moment when you were overwhelmed in the past. And so when someone is experiencing a flashback, they're not going to be able to readily utilize skills to calm down. They may need reminders, gentle reminders, like, I know you're not in a safe place right now. You are safe. Let's try this breathing technique together. And so I think that supporters, loved ones, can also learn the techniques that the person who's suffering from PTSD
So you both
uses.
squeeze some oranges then?
You both squeeze oranges together,
Yeah.
or you remind them that this is what we can use. There's another form of therapy called DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, that helps people who are on the more severe range of self-harm or depression that goes along with PTSD. And there are some tools with DBT that you can use in the moment to self-soothe, to remove yourself from a place that's dangerous. And having a family member or a therapy partner remind you of these safe skills is important when you're so overwhelmed that you can't readily pull from your brain these techniques that worked before.
And they learn this by either going to therapy with the person that has PTSD or
Working with the therapist.
Yeah. Okay, so they can't go on YouTube and just learn some PTSD coping skills.
Doesn't
These are
work that
very
way.
specific types of skills learned in therapy. If your spouse is affected with PTSD and is in treatment, how do you have that conversation with your kids?
That can be really difficult because in some cases the child can be traumatized. We talked about how one of the symptoms of PTSD is that hyperarousal, that irritability, that reactivity. And sometimes that can be very scary for children. They will hear yelling and screaming and they don't understand. Or the parent can really believe that they're dying and behave as if, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, or say that. And that's traumatizing for that child. They may think, my dad, my mom, they're gonna die. And remember, you don't have to necessarily experience life-threatening situations yourself. You can, if you truly believe that someone that you know or someone close to you is going to die, that itself can be considered one of the triggers for PTSD. So in some cases, you're treating the whole family.
Yes. It is important to remember that just because somebody else is going through something difficult doesn't mean you should or can stop taking care of yourself. Getting care for yourself, treatment for yourself only makes you that much better of a supporter. Any final thoughts on triggers and tips for supporters who know someone who is in treatment for PTSD?
You know, I hate to say this, but like, everyone could benefit from therapy. And like when families hear that, they're like, well, you want my sibling, my other child, she's not the one that experiences trauma. She is. Yeah. Siblings are close. And, or, you know, if the parent is the one, the partner is the one experiencing the trauma, the kids are also a part of it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone would benefit from having just even like a check-in.
Of course.
You know, they may not end up having a long relationship with a therapist, but it's worth it to see if there's something there that needs to be addressed and supported.
Absolutely. For more information on PTSD, make sure you click around the medcircle.com website. And if you think this type of series could help somebody that you know, make sure you let them know they can go to medcircle.com and become a subscriber. Dr. Judith, thanks for being here.
Thank you.